Welcome friends, Tal here, and welcome to another Legion Beta video. Today taking a look at the Brewmaster Monk. We're going to be talking legendary items, set bonuses, as well as just an updated little impression of playing it through the Broken Shore, getting the artifact, all that kind of stuff. For those of you who aren't aware, Brewmaster is my current main. I've been playing it since it came out. I played it during Mists of Pandaria, I played it during Warlords. It is what I know best. And it's received a number of changes. Enough changes that, personally speaking, I'm not too interested in playing it anymore. But we're going to go ahead and get into all that. So, for the most part, the changes that they've made is they've removed Jab. They made Tiger Palm be the main chi, not chi, but energy user, I guess. It's like your filler. And they made your active mitigation work on charges. So you have an Iron Skin Brew, which is your new active mitigation, which just increases your stagger by 40%. And then you have Purifying Boot, which purifies half of your stagger damage. So those two share a charge, and you're basically juggling both of them as you use your abilities. Now you should note that Keg Smash, still your big cooldown, is going to reduce the cooldown of Purifying an Iron Skin Brew by 4 seconds, and Tiger Palm does it by 1 second. So you're basically using these as much as you possibly can and reducing the cooldown. Breath of Fire returns as an actual usable ability now, because it doesn't cost any resources, it does some nice AoE damage, and then Blackout Strike is going to be replacing the Tiger Palm spam that you used to have, except that it's a 3-second cooldown. It's a little awkward to get used to, but it basically ends up being you use 2 abilities, then you use Blackout Strike, you use 2 abilities, then you use Blackout Strike. Overall, it's okay, it's alright. You will notice the removal of guard, which, it's not that monks need guard, but they need something else. Having just Fortifying Brew and then Exploding Keg as your active mitigation, or not active mitigation, but your artifact ability, having just Fortifying Brew baseline is not enough of a cooldown in my personal opinion. They need one more. And I'm not talking just about the talent tier where they have Dampen Harm, Diffuse Magic, and Healing Elixirs. They need something else baseline, something else, maybe a short-term damage reduction. They actually don't have very much damage reduction baseline, and it's something that is a bit of a problem. Overall, just going through the Broken Shore, you definitely feel the lack of an extra cooldown. Doing the artifact acquisition is easy though, so it's not like you're tanking anything really annoying like the Protection Paladin one is. Expel Harm is still going to be drawing in spheres when you spawn them, but they still kind of spawn really shitty. It's hard for me to really quantify how I feel about the spec, because I feel like it's going to excel more in dungeon scenarios, raid scenarios. Just playing it by yourself, you feel like you don't ever spawn Gift of the Ox Orbs, so it's kind of like a null and void mechanic. And then you can have Iron Skin Brew up all the time, but then according to Celestalon, you're not really supposed to. So it feels weird. It's weird. It's going to take a little more math and people smarter than me to really nail down the way you're going to want to play this, and then using the abilities in the very specific situations is going to make you distinguish you from a great monk and a mediocre monk. Overall, I think they need some more tweaks though. An additional ability would be great. Making your artifact ability useful would be fantastic, because right now just making the enemies miss their next melee attack or spell attack or whatever, just one attack, it feels shitty. You can't compare it to things like higher tier, which gives you a 25% damage reduction. You know, that's a good artifact ability. The warrior one that makes you critically block everything as you're doing it, those are good abilities. Exploding Keg is not a good ability. It's a shit ability. But anyways, today we're going to be talking about legendary items and set bonuses. Let's go ahead and get into that. So, your set bonus, or your tier set I should say, is the Vestments of Enveloped Dissonance. Jesus, what the fuck kind of word is that? As you can see, it actually looks really cool. It looks kind of like all the other monk tiers, honestly, if I'm being super honest. But I do like the shoulders, like the gloves. The mythic variant is pretty nice, and I do actually really like the helm, as well as you can tell here the cloak that matches. All the tier sets are going to have cloaks. They're actually a part of the tier. And let's go ahead and take a look at what the set bonuses actually are. So, we have the 2 set is Iron Skin Brew increases your stagger amount by an additional 5%. Okay, pretty standard, pretty nice little bonus here to your staggering amount. Your baseline stagger isn't that much. Iron Skin Brew boosts it up by like 40%, so this will be 45%. It's nice. not that big of a thing to talk about, really. Then you have your force, at which Tiger Palm reduces the remaining cooldown on your brews by an additional 1 second. So, you can already kind of keep Iron Skin Brew up all the time. Okay? You already can. Now, if you purify once or twice, then you can't have it up all the time. So having this reduce the cooldown every time you Tiger Bomb by 2 seconds, then you have Kick Smash being 4 seconds, that's a good thing. That's nice. But the issue I'm feeling here is we have a post from Blizzard saying how you're expected to use your abilities, how you're expected to play Brewmaster. But after reading all of that, I don't feel like that's a realistic scenario for a raid. I don't feel like that's a realistic scenario of something that's going to end up happening. I feel that as much as they want to make bosses not do as much damage to people and lower the burst, it's really hard for me to picture a world where that actually happens. Just because they've said it multiple times and I've been playing the game for so long. So I'm not entirely sure how viable the Brewmaster is, or how likely it is that Brewmaster is going to be good. This is the only tank class where I don't understand the picture that they're trying to paint for us. They even literally, wrote it out, described it. They went out of their way to do something they've never done before, which was tell players how to play the spec. And even then, I'm just like, I don't see it. Does it take having the full artifact to use it? Yes, because having the full artifact is actually going to give your Blackout Strike and your Breath of Fire more damage reduction. It's going to give you a 8% damage reduction. It's going to give your Blackout Strike some damage reduction as well. So you're always having something up on yourself. You're always protecting yourself. Remember that without those traits, you have no baseline damage reduction. Fortifying Brew just increases stagger. Exploding Keg just makes people miss. Nothing reduces damage besides Dampen Harm and Diffuse Magic, but those are very big talents, and use them for very big abilities, things like that. Overall, I think that the set could be good, but I'm just not entirely sure. I mean, if they're saying we're not supposed to use our Iron Skin Brew until you're like at half elf, then to me that means, okay, I don't need that much more time on my brews. My brews are already up all the time. I basically have them up the entire time. If I'm using it from like 100 for the start of the fight to the end, I can have my Iron Skin Brew up almost all the time. And if I take that much pure damage, then I can just purify it off with Purifying Brew. But I just don't see it yet. So I think a couple numbers still need to be tweaked. Maybe with more gear, things will make more sense. But then we're going to take a look at the legendary items. So we have the neck that gives you the absorb shield when you don't take damage for 5 seconds. Again, as I've said with all the tanks, why is my mouse moving? As I've said with all the tanks, it's going to be very much dependent on the fight. I ultimately think it's not going to be that useful. I don't think this ring's ever really going to be useful, so I don't really want to talk about it too much, but it just gives you 15% haste, 70% increase in boost speed when you give a loss of control effect, so when you CC something. Then you have this belt here that causes your physical attacks to deal an additional 50% damage as physical. I'm sorry, give me 1 second. I think my mouse is like messing up or something. It might be time to replace this, which is great because I have no money. So good to know. But it's going to cause your attacks to deal an additional 50% damage as physical to enemies above 90% health. I think this is mostly pointless because at the end of the day, you don't have a boss up above 90% health for very long. If you're out soloing, doing whatever, yeah, sure, it'll probably be nice. But we here at this channel are talking about raid tanking mythic dungeons and mythic raids. So pretty useless. It'll be nice to have if you have no other legendary, yeah, use it. But if you have any other legendary, even this would be better than this because 90% health doesn't last long on any boss, any mob, anything that you're fighting. Then you have this chest. When you use Kick Smash, the remaining cooldown on Breath of Fire is reset. So Kick Smash has a 6.56 second cooldown reduced by haste. Breath of Fire has a standard 15 second cooldown. Breath of Fire is worth using now, and you especially want to use it when enemies have your the debuff that slows them down because it does more damage. Breath of Fire also has a damage reduction component once you get the artifact traits for it. So this chest is actually going to be really nice. It's going to let you keep up your damage reduction on Breath of Fire more often. It's going to make more Breath of Fire, so it's going to be more damage. And it just synergizes very well with the fact that you want a Breath of Fire after Kick Smash. So good chest. Not game breaking, not super crazy, but good. Then you have Firestone Walker, which is boots. Each enemy you hit with Breath of Fire reduces the cooldown of Fortifying Boot by 1 second up to a maximum of 4 seconds. So all these tanks have a legendary like this that basically reduce the cooldown on your big shield wall when you use like an AoE attack or something. Again, it's nice to have, but I don't really see it as something that is going to be too amazing. Your big shield wall abilities are used on scheduled moments, so scheduled abilities, scheduled things. If you're fighting a boss and you're basically just using it whenever you need it, it could be nice. But again, it's only up to 4 seconds because of the limitation that's being placed on it right there. And Fortifying Boot is your only cooldown, so maybe that's also good too. I don't know. I mean, they're nice, but they're not fantastic, I would say. Then you have this ring. It increases the duration of stagger by 3 seconds. I can honestly say I don't know how valuable this could be. I have no idea. The concept of it completely escapes me, because increasing the duration of stagger sounds good because you're increasing the amount of time that you have until you have to deal with it, so it just stretches it out, so you'll take less damage overall over the time that you have it. But at the same time, it also kind of means that when you purify, you're purifying less stuff, because I don't know the math behind it, but it would make sense that if you're only purifying half of something, if something's longer, unless you take more damage from it or whatever, it's spread out, you only purify half of it. Maybe what I'm saying doesn't even make sense. It's hard for me to really figure out what this means realistically. I don't know if it's good, I don't know if it's bad, I don't know if it's negligible. It's going to take the math people to figure that out. But just the fact that I can't tell from looking at it that it's great or bad or good or whatever, or what situation you use it, I think that means that there's a problem with that legendary. You know, they're trying to make things be easy for people to figure out. I can't figure that out unless I go to the forums or something. So I think that needs to change. Alright, then you have this helm. Now this is going to make Zen Med last through 3 melee attacks. So Zen Meditation has changed a little bit from Warlords, and it's going to reduce all damage you take by 60% for 8 seconds. So it's no longer the 90% damage reduction, it's going to be 60%. It's a 5-minute cooldown. When you take a melee attack, it goes away. Traditionally, we've used this to counter important spell mechanics, to counter one really big hit from a boss that'll murder us, things like that. Having it last through 3 melee attacks would actually be really, really good. It would turn Zen Meditation into more of a real cooldown. You can use it on things like, let's see, I don't know, anything that's a melee attack. You have more viability, more uses for it. So I think that's actually a really good one. Then again, you know, you can move in Warlords because of a glyph. I don't think you can move, or I don't think that glyph exists anymore as far as Legion goes. So I don't know if you can move around in it. But let's assume you can. It does root you. If you move, you cancel it. But it gives it more viability, more uses that you can do. So I think it'll be good. But again, hard to tell. Already I can see that for the most part all of these are very situational, and in fact the only one that I can see just being useful all the time is literally the chest. Maybe the helm. Then you have this waste that Purifying Boot instantly heals you for 25% of the purified stagger damage. Let me correct myself. This one will probably be useful all the time. This is the first one that I'm just like, yep, straight up, great thing to have. You definitely want to be purifying when you're taking a lot of damage. If you take advantage of the fact that you won't have full health, then you purify a big one, it'll be really good for your health to sustain yourself and keep yourself up. I very much easily see this one being the more go-to one. The head being very situational, the chest being if you want to keep up Breath of Fire all the time. But for the rest of them, I think they're situational and not very clear. So it's interesting. As I've gone down the tanks, I see less and less powerful ones. I mean, it's really hard to compare this to things like the Demon Hunter and the Blood Decay and the Guardian Druid that all had very, very powerful, meaningful legendary bonuses. And then you compare it to like the Protection Paladin, or you compare it to the Brewmaster Monk, where everything's not as clear, not as set in stone, not as amazing. It's very interesting to me. But anyways, guys, that's that. I hope you've enjoyed this quick little update on the Brewmaster, what it's been like going through the Broken Shore, the artifact ability, as well as a quick little look at the set bonuses and legendary items. If you like this video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. You can see more of this. I'm sorry this took so long to come out, but as you may or may not know, I've been a little busy with in real life stuff recently. I'm pretty much trying to get more of these out. I'm going to be streaming as well. I'm going to be streaming because I'm trying to make some extra money here now that I can't work. I usually work as an Uber driver. My car is completely not usable at the moment. So we're going to go ahead and hope that gets figured out soon. But hope you guys like this, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Stay tuned for more.